Every night when the last sliver of sun dipped below the horizon, a strange quiet seemed to fall over the house. Not just the normal peaceful calm that comes with nightfall, but an eerie hush that swallowed all sound. It seeped into every corner, silencing not just the bustling world outside, but the very essence of their home. No more gentle creaks of the aging wooden floorboards beneath my feet. No whisper of wind rustling through the leaves outside. No crickets chirping their nightly song. It was as though the house was in a state of suspended animation, cut off from the symphony of sounds that accompanied life. It was as if the world itself held its breath, leaving only an oppressive stillness in its wake. The phonograph was an enigma, a silent intruder in an already silent house. I was drawn to the attic by the familiar thud of footsteps. As I stood there with my flashlight, the melody started to play. It was faint at first, like a whisper from beyond the grave. The melody was supposed to be joyful, a celebration of love and life. But in this context, it was a dirge, a lament for a happiness that was no more. Neither of us had laid claim to the ghostly serenade. Neither of us had ownership over the tragedy that unfolded each night in our attic. We stood there in the dusty confines of the attic, united in our bewilderment, our shared sorrow, and a love that death itself seemed unable to silence. Mornings were a struggle to rise, to drag myself out of bed and face the day. As the hours passed and the darkness deepened, we would retreat to our room, sealing ourselves in with locks and bolted doors, desperately trying to shut out the impending horror. With each sunrise, hope flickered that the night's horrors had been but a dream. Yet with the setting sun, dread returned. And then the unmistakable click of the phonograph in the attic above us, followed by the mournful strains of the same haunting melody. Startled by the sudden eruption of sound, my wife and I would huddle together, our bodies trembling, our eyes wide with terror. But even in this sanctuary, the ghost of my wife's voice lingered, seeping through the cracks in our defenses. It was as if the house itself was holding its breath, biding its time before plunging us into another abyss of sound and fury. My mind kept returning to the attic, to the phonograph, to the haunting melody that seemed to have burrowed under my skin, worming its way into my very soul. We were losing ground, slipping further into the clutches of the relentless nightmare. And I knew that if we didn't find a way to fight back, to break free from the cycle of terror, we would be lost forever in the suffocating grip of the silence above the attic. My wife, bless her loving heart, tried her best to be my anchor to reality, her unwavering support a beacon in the encroaching darkness. Sometimes in the dead of night, when the silence was at its thickest and the shadows danced ominously on the walls, I would hear it. Her voice, once the soundtrack to my life, was now a haunting reminder of what I'd lost. Our days were spent in anxious anticipation of the coming night, our nights in the futile hope of sleep. The relentless cycle of terror continued, mocking our despair, deepening our trauma with each passing day. But then it swelled, pouring out of the phonograph in waves of sound. Night after night, the same grim spectacle would unfold. The relentless footsteps in the attic, the spine-chilling strains of the phonograph, and my wife's face ashen with fear, mirroring the horror that consumed me. Its presence was a puzzle, its purpose a mystery. Why was it here? She was beside me, her form solid and real, yet her voice was coming from the phonograph, distorted and echoing as if from a great distance. It was a cruel trick of sound, a ghostly duet between the living and the dead. My wife turned to me, her face etched with concern. She reached out, her touch grounding me in the present, in reality. Its brass gleaming malevolently in the attic's gloom, its cylinder seeming to hold the very essence of my wife's lost voice. Each turn of the crank was a gamble, a roll of the dice with my sanity. Would I hear her voice again? Would the phantom melody taunt me with its spectral embrace? And what did it have to do with the haunting melody that now echoed through my nightmares? This unsettling quiet wasn't confined to the inside of the house. The hairs on the back of my neck would stand on end, and I knew I had to investigate. Armed with only a flickering flashlight, I would begin my ascent into the shadowy realm of the attic, hoping to banish the darkness with its beam. But then the silence would shift. It morphed into something more sinister, moving from above the ceiling. And then I would see it, or rather I wouldn't because the attic was empty. The flashlight's beam revealed nothing but cobwebs, dust motes dancing in the dim light and the hulking shadow cast by an old phonograph in the corner. Soft, deliberate footsteps started to echo in the attic. Heavy steps that seemed to carry the weight of some unseen horror. I strained to listen, my heart pounding against my ribs like a trapped bird. Each step was like a nail hammered into my fear. The steps would stop suddenly, as if whoever or whatever was up there had frozen in place, caught in the act of its nightly visitation. As I made my way through the cramped space, my eyes, nose and mouth stinging from the dust stirred up by my intrusion, the only sound was the scratching of my shoes on the worn wooden planks. It was a relic of a bygone era, a testament to a time when music was measured in grooves and played at the mercy of a hand-cranked wheel. I remember the first time I heard it. It was my wife's voice, or at least it sounded like her. But how could it be? She was humming our song, the one we danced to at our wedding. The phonograph played on, filling the attic with her voice, with our song, until the final, heart-wrenching note faded away, leaving me in the suffocating grip of silence once more. Her eyes were filled with questions, mirroring the confusion that clouded my own thoughts. The presence of the phonograph was a constant, a fixture in the macabre nightly ritual. Sleep became a battlefield where I fought to stay awake, to deny the ghostly serenades that haunted my dreams. My wife, ever the picture of devotion, would stand by my side as the first star peeked through the twilight, her hand in mine, a silent vow of support in her eyes. In the sanctuary of our room, we sought solace, clinging to each other for strength, our love a shield against the encroaching darkness. Just a whisper, a mere tremor of sound, like the rustle of silk or the sigh of wind. The attic was our tormentor, a malevolent entity unleashing its sonic wrath upon us with cruel regularity. We became prisoners in our own home, captives of an unseen force that dictated our every move, our every breath. The silence of the house during the day was deafening, a constant reminder of the horrors that awaited us when the sun dipped below the horizon. My attempts to distract myself with work or hobbies were futile. Yet even her comforting presence couldn't fully dispel the chilling premonition that something, or someone, was relentlessly pursuing us, driving us towards a terrifying unknown.